Should Daniel Craig make one more Bond movie? Okay, so they've announced that there will be one more Bond movie. I'm sure there'll be lots more, but there's one more coming in 2019, so about 2 years away. But they've not said who's directing, and they've not said what it's about, and fundamentally they've not said who James Bond is going to be. So the big question is it going to be Daniel Craig or is it not? You would expect, I think, if it wasn't going to be Daniel Craig, they would have said as much. I suspect it will be, but I guess the big question is, do we want him to make one more? Now, I find out I'm really torn on this issue. On the one hand, Craig is undoubtedly my favourite Bond. I grew up with Sean Connery. I saw Pierce Brosnan as a teenager. I like them both very much. But for me, Craig unites that kind of like manly, tough, I'm going to kill you Bond with the whole I'm a great actor, I'm vulnerable, I'm interesting. And the films have gone in a different, new, bolder direction with him as Bond. On the other hand, he's getting a little bit old for it now, isn't he? He must be, what is he, 49, 50? And I do remember reading an interview with Leah Seydoux, who played the Bond girl in the last film, Madeline, where she was worried that in that movie that it would look like a man and a girl in terms of casting her opposite him. And so if you do go into another film, how old will he look? How would you cast him? And will he look happy doing it? Because I know he made a lot of noises after they finished filming Spectre about being miserable, even though it seems he was misquoted, and even though actually he seems to like the role an awful lot. I would like him to stay. There's always that shame with Craig, isn't there? That the exciting thing about him becoming Bond was that Casino Royale is about him being a young agent who's just learning how to do things, and is making mistakes, and he looks very young, very smooth, very sexy, and he's like a character actor being ported into a big movie. And then in Quantum Solace, it's all just terrible, and we all cry, and they're all going with the whole like always a bit heart-bitten at this point. And then we get years off, and then they come back, and they're like, oh, it's Skyfall. But Skyfall goes with the idea, doesn't it, that he's knackered and he's almost past it, even though he's only had like 2 films. He's only had 1 film since this whole like I'm a young, sexy new Asian thing. And then you get Spectre, and the real tragedy is I think that Spectre really was conceived as Craig's send-off. Clearly the relationship with Madeline is supposed to resemble and sort of trump the one that he had with Vesper in Casino Royale, the idea that he sort of finds love again for the last time. At the end he rejects being the secret agent when he's on the bridge in the slightly naff finale, and he goes off with her in his lovely Aston Martin, which is clearly supposed to be a kind of emotional and kind of narrative closure to the Bond Craig films. But it's let down by the fact that Spectre just isn't very good. And I think they acknowledge that. Didn't make as much money as Skyfall, but also has all sorts of narrative issues, has a kind of fantastic opening bit with the helicopters, really engaging, with all the stuff trying to tie it together with the previous films is a bit naff. It's great to get Christoph Waltz as Blofeld, but that's all really awkward. All the stuff where they try to pretend that he's not Blofeld, but then he is just like that stuff with Benedict Cumberbatch in Star Trek Into Darkness, when they're like, we all know he is, just tell us he is, because otherwise it's just it's a naff narrative twist halfway through the movie. Anyway, you don't want Bond to stay beyond when he should stay, and Connery looks completely bored by the time of You Only Live Twice, even though it's it's a iconic movie, and Roger Moore has passed it by. I don't know. I mean, like Moonraker is his 4th movie, and he looks pretty old by the time Moonraker, doesn't he? But certainly after Moonraker, you get Fewer Eyes Only, and actually, which is quite good. Although in that he's really old, and they cast him with like a 20-year-old ice skater, don't they? He should have given up. Yeah, maybe Daniel Craig should give up. I've changed my mind when I'm making this video. I'm not sure. I think the real thing is that the Bond movies seem to be going opposite to the Star Trek movies. In the Star Trek movies, the even ones are good, and the odd ones are bad. With Daniel Craig, it seems to be the odd ones, Casino Royale, Skyfall, are the good ones, and the bad ones are the even number ones, Quantum Solace, Spectre. So one more would be five. So if you made 5, the 5th one, I'm sure, will be a masterpiece. And it's all about time. If they spend a bit more time between the movies, and they always seem to come off a lot better. Skyfall had 4 years before the last one, so as they've got some time to write the script, they've got some time to think about it, some time to think about how they handle the fact that these characters may be a bit older, then it would be lovely to see the best actor who's ever played Bond maybe go out with what could be maybe the best Bond film of them all. Who knows? I, for one, would like to see him back in the blue swing trunks at the age of 50 one more time. That's an internet meme that's just waiting to happen. So, should he stay for one more? Yes, please. Anything but Tom Hiddleston. Bring in Idris Elba, but he's like 80 years old now as well, isn't he? So, I reckon one more for Daniel Craig. Do I? Yeah. I'm 36 anyway, so I'm too old. Daniel Craig, one more.